There's something nobody tells you about pain. It doesn't ask your permission before it arrives, and it doesn't leave when you ask it to. But here's what I've learned after watching people rebuild lives from ashes. Pain is not the opposite of your future. Pain is the raw material your future is made of. The only question is whether you know how to work it. Let me tell you what happens if you don't. You stay exactly where you are. Not because life stopped you, because you decided the wound was the ending. 10 years pass. You're still telling the same story about what happened to you. Same words, same anger, same season repeating. The people who hurt you moved on years ago, and you are still paying rent on a room they left. That's the cost, not the pain itself, the pain you refuse to convert. Because pain works like fire. Fire destroys a house. The same fire forges steel. Same element, two completely different outcomes, and the difference is never the fire. It's the container. It's what the fire is placed inside. A weak container burns. A prepared container transforms what enters it. And every day you live, you are either building the container or you are letting the fire loose in a house. Keep that fire in your mind. We'll come back to it. 1. Stop asking why it happened. Start asking what it revealed. You've been up at 3 in the morning running the same question in a loop. Why me? Why then? Why did they do that? And I understand it. The mind wants an explanation because an explanation feels like control. If I know why, maybe I can stop it from happening again. But here's what most people never realize. Why is a question that has no floor? You can dig for years and never hit the bottom of it. Every answer produces another question. Meanwhile, the years you're spending digging are years you could have spent building. Let me tell you about a man I knew who lost his business at 43. 12 years of work gone in about 90 days. Suppliers stopped answering. His partner left with a client list. He told me he spent the first 8 months doing nothing but reconstructing the timeline in his head. Who said what he should have caught, which meeting was a turning point. He said he could recite it like scripture. And then one morning his son asked him a question at breakfast, and he realized he had no idea what his son had been doing for the past 8 months. He had been physically present and completely absent. That was the moment he stopped asking why. He started asking something else. What did this reveal? Not what caused it. What did it expose about him that was already there? And the answer was uncomfortable. It revealed he'd never learned to read people. It revealed he avoided hard conversations until they became emergencies. It revealed he built everything on trust and nothing on structure. Now that's painful, but do you see what's different? Why points backward at a world you can't change? What did it reveal? Points inward at something you can. One is an autopsy, the other is a diagnosis. Autopsies are for the dead. Diagnoses are for the living. Most people fail here because revelation is harder than blame. Blame is comfortable. It puts a problem outside you where you never have to work on it. Revelation puts it inside you where it's your responsibility. And responsibility feels heavier at first. But heavy is not the same as harmful. A barbell is heavy. It's also the reason you get stronger. So here's what you do today. Take the thing that hurt you and write it down in one sentence. Just the event, no commentary. Then underneath it, write 3 things it exposed about you, not about them. Your weaknesses, your blind spots, your patterns. And then write 1 thing you will do differently because of each. 3 lines. That's it. Why doesn't build? What reveals builds. Blame is a resting place. Revelation is a starting line. But there's a reason this feels almost impossible when the wound is fresh, and it has nothing to do with willpower. 2. Give the pain a timeline, or it will give you one. Grief without a container becomes identity. That's the thing nobody warns you about. You felt this. Something breaks, a relationship, a career, a person you lost, and for the first weeks everyone understands. They bring food, they check in, and then somewhere around month 3 or month 6, the world quietly moves on and you're still there. And now there's a second layer of pain, the shame of still being in pain. So you learn to hide it, and hidden pain doesn't heal. It just goes underground and starts making your decisions for you. I met a woman who lost her mother when she was 26. 7 years later she told me she still hadn't unpacked the boxes from her mother's house. They sat in a spare room. She said she couldn't open them because opening them meant it was real, and not opening them meant it wasn't over yet. 7 years of a room she couldn't enter in a house she paid for. And the strange thing was, she didn't describe it as grief anymore. She described it as who she was. I'm just not someone who deals with things. Do you see what happened? The pain stopped being an event. It became a personality. That's the danger. Not the intensity of the wound, the duration you allow it to define you. Most people fail here because they think the alternative is suppression. Push it down. Get over it. Be strong. And that's wrong too, because suppressed pain doesn't disappear. It just changes address. It shows up as a temper you can't explain, as a wall nobody can get past, as a physical exhaustion that no amount of sleep touches. The answer isn't suppression. It's containment. You give the pain a place to live so it stops living everywhere. Here's how. Choose a window, 20 minutes, same time each day. That's when you feel it fully. You don't distract yourself. You don't perform strength. You let it come. And when the 20 minutes end, you stand up and go do the next thing. Not because the pain is finished, but because you have decided it is a tenant and not a landlord. Do that for 30 days and watch what happens. The pain doesn't shrink because you fought it. It shrinks because you stopped running from it, and things you stop running from stop chasing you. Suppressed pain rules you. Contained pain teaches you. Same fire. The difference is the container. And once you can sit with it without drowning, something becomes possible that wasn't before. You can finally use it. 3. Convert the pain into a skill, not a story. Here's a hard truth, and I want you to sit with it. Your pain is not automatically valuable. It becomes valuable only when it's translated. Everyone knows someone who's been through something extraordinary and has nothing to show for it but a story they tell at parties. And everyone knows someone who went through something similar and came out with a capability, a steadiness, a judgment, an eye for things others miss. Same experience, completely different yield. The difference is translation. I knew a nurse who worked a hospital ward through the worst 2 years of her career. She watched things nobody should have to watch. When it was over, she was was hollowed out. She told me she thought she was ruined, that she'd been broken in a way that couldn't be repaired. But over the next year something surfaced. In every room she walked into, she could tell within 30 seconds who was actually okay and who was performing okay. She developed an instinct for reading distress that most people never build in a lifetime. She didn't want it, she hadn't asked for it, but it was real, and it was hers, and eventually she built an entire second career on it. She said something I've never forgotten. She said the pain didn't leave, it just changed jobs. That's the conversion. Pain that stays a story keeps pointing at the past. Pain that becomes a skill points forward. And here's why most people never make the crossing. They're waiting to feel healed before they act. But that's backwards. The skill doesn't appear after the healing. The skill is a large part of what does the healing. So do this. Ask yourself one question. What can I now do, or see, or withstand that I couldn't before this happened? Be specific, not I'm stronger. That's too vague to use. Something like, I can sit with someone in crisis without flinching. I can spot a bad partnership 6 months earlier than I used to. I can go without approval for long stretches. Then find one place this week, to actually use it. Volunteer it. Offer it. Put it to work in the real world where somebody benefits. Because a story asks to be heard. A skill asks to be used. And only one of those changes anything. That's 3. But there's a trap waiting right here. And almost everyone walks into it. The moment you start converting pain into strength, something inside you will try to protect the wound instead. 4. Refuse the identity of the wounded. Something happens when you finally start to heal that nobody prepares you for. Part of you doesn't want to. That sounds absurd until you've lived it. But think about what the wound has been giving you. It explains things. It excuses things. It gets you gentleness from people who would otherwise expect more. It is, in a strange way, the most reliable relationship you have. It never leaves. It never disappoints. And it is always available. To let it go is to lose all of that at once, and to walk back out into a world where you're just a person again with ordinary expectations on your shoulders. I watched a man go through this. He'd been in an accident in his 20s, a bad one, and it took years to come back from. But he came back, and around year 6, everything in his life had genuinely stabilized, and he was miserable. He couldn't understand it. Finally he said the thing out loud, if I'm fine, then I'm nobody special. I'm just a guy who didn't do much with his 30s. The accident had been the most significant thing about him. Healing meant surrendering his one claim to being extraordinary. That is the trap, and most people never name it, so they never escape it. They spend the rest of their lives in a low-grade crisis, unconsciously maintaining just enough damage to stay interesting to themselves. You have to be honest about what you're getting from the wound. Not to shame yourself, everyone gets something, but because you cannot put down what you won't admit you're holding. So here's the work today. Finish this sentence honestly. If I fully healed from this, I would lose dot. Write the real answer, not the noble one. Maybe it's sympathy. Maybe it's the excuse for the thing you've never attempted. Maybe it's the reason you get to stay small without calling it a choice. Then answer the second question. What would I have to become responsible for? That second answer is the actual door. It's also why it's still closed. The wounded get protected. The healed get expected of. And you cannot become powerful while you're still collecting the benefits of being broken. Now, once you put that identity down, you're going to feel something you might mistake for a relapse. It isn't. 5. Expect the anger. Then aim it. There's a stage in this that people are ashamed of. And because they're ashamed, they hide it. And because they hide it, it turns rancid. The anger. Not sadness, anger. It usually arrives late, after you've done the hard work of accepting things, and it feels like backsliding. You thought you were past this, and suddenly you're furious at a person, at a system, at God, at the version of yourself who let it happen. And everyone around you says the same well-meaning thing. Let it go. But anger isn't the problem. Aimless anger is the problem. Anger is enormous energy with no address on it. Give it an address and it becomes the most productive force you'll ever have access to. There was a father I heard about whose daughter was killed by a drunk driver. In the first year he was, by his own description, barely a person. Consumed. He said the anger was so total it had physical weight. And then he did something with it. He didn't dissolve it. He didn't forgive his way out of it. He pointed it. He spent the next 15 years working on legislation, sitting in hearing rooms, telling the same unbearable story to committee after committee. He said the anger never fully went away. He just gave it a job. And the laws that exist because of that work have saved lives he will never meet. Most people fail here because they've been taught only 2 options: swallow it or explode with it. Swallowing turns it into bitterness, anger with nowhere to go, curdling inward. Exploding burns the people nearest to you, who usually did nothing. But there's a third option nobody teaches. You build something with it. Here's how you start. Take the anger and ask, what does this energy want to prevent? Not punish, prevent. What would have to exist in the world for this to happen to fewer people? Then find the smallest version of that thing and do it this month. Mentor one person. Write the honest thing. Fix the process at your job that broke you. Give the anger a task or it will find one, and it will choose your your relationships. Bitterness is anger without a direction. Purpose is anger with an address. Same fire, different container. And this is where the whole thing starts to turn. Because the moment your pain begins producing something outside of you, its meaning changes. 6. Stop waiting to be understood. Here's something that will free you if you let it. Almost no one is going to fully understand what happened to you, and you are going to keep bleeding until you stop requiring them to. You know this ache. You explain it, and you watch their face, and you can see the exact second they don't get it. They say the wrong thing. They compare it to something much smaller. They rush you toward a lesson, and you walk away lonelier than before you spoke. So you try a different person, and another, looking for the one who will finally receive it in full. I knew a woman who spent 4 years trying to get her family to acknowledge something that had happened in her childhood. For years of conversations, letters, a therapy session she brought her brother to. She wanted them to say it out loud, to confirm that it was real and that it mattered. They never did, and she told me the day everything changed was the day she accepted they never would. Not because she forgave them, because she realized she'd handed her healing to people who had already proven they couldn't hold it. She'd made her recovery conditional on their capability, and they didn't have it. That's why most people stay stuck for years. They're not waiting to heal, they're waiting for a witness, and the witness they've chosen is usually the one person structurally incapable of showing up. Understanding is beautiful when it comes, but it's not a prerequisite. You do not need someone else's acknowledgement to make your experience real. It was real when it happened. It doesn't require a second signature. So today, do this. Write down who you've been waiting on, the specific person. Then ask honestly, is there any evidence they're capable of giving me what I want? Not whether they should, whether they can. If the answer is no, release them from the job. Not out loud, not in a confrontation, just internally. And then find one person or one place that can hold it, a friend who listens without fixing, a professional, a page in a notebook nobody reads. Witness it yourself if you must, but stop auditioning people who keep failing the audition. Waiting to be understood is a life spent in someone else's hands. Choosing to move is a life in your own. And once you stop waiting for permission from the past, there's exactly one thing left standing between you and the future. 7. Take the smallest possible action, immediately. Everything I've said so far can become a philosophy, and philosophy is where pain goes to hide. You can understand every principle here perfectly and change nothing. You can journal about it, talk about it, feel deeply moved by it at 6 in the morning, and be in exactly the same position a year from now, just with better vocabulary for your stagnation. Insight isn't transformation. Insight is only the map. Here's what's actually happening when you don't move. Pain makes the future feel enormous and yourself feel small. So every action you consider gets measured against the size of the damage, and everything looks pointless by comparison. Rebuild a career? After that, trust someone? After that, the gap looks unbridgeable, so you don't step. And not stepping confirms the story that you can't. I heard about a man who lost nearly everything in his 50s and spent about a year in a chair. What finally moved him wasn't inspiration. It was that he decided to walk to the end of his street and back. That's it. Not a plan, not a comeback. A street. He did it the next day too. Within a few months he was walking an hour, and during those walks he started thinking clearly for the first time since it happened. And the thinking produced an idea, and the idea eventually produced a livelihood. He always said the same thing about it, that he didn't rebuild his life. He just went for a walk, and the walk did the rest. Most people fail because they're waiting to feel ready, but readiness is generated by motion, not before it. Confidence is a residue. It's what's left behind after you do the thing, never what you gather up before it. So make it small enough that failure is impossible. Not rebuild my life. One email, one walk, one phone call you've been avoiding for 9 months, one page. Choose it now, before you finish listening, and do it within the hour, because the window between hearing this and acting on it is the entire difference between a good morning and a changed year. Motion creates clarity. Clarity creates confidence. Confidence creates momentum. And momentum is what finally makes the pain a thing that happened rather than a thing that's happening. But there's one more piece, and it's the one that turns your recovery into something bigger than you. 8. Become the person you needed. There's a specific kind of loneliness in going through something hard without a guide, and most people carry that loneliness quietly for the rest of their lives, never realizing they're standing on the exact thing that could make them useful. Think back to the worst of it. Who did you need? Not in general, specifically. The person who would have said the one true sentence. Who would have sat there without trying to fix it? Who would have told you what was coming so it wouldn't ambush you? Picture them clearly. Most likely, they never showed up. That's part of why it hurt as much as it did. Now here's the refrain that changes everything. That absence isn't only a wound, it's a job description. There was a teacher I heard about who grew up in foster care, moved 11 times before she was 15, and said the hardest part was never having one adult who knew her whole story. So when she started teaching, she made a rule for herself. Every year she'd pick 3 students who seemed to be disappearing, and she'd learn their whole story and stay in their lives past the school year. She's been doing it for 2 decades. She said something striking about it, that she wasn't being generous, she was being precise. She knew exactly what those kids needed because she'd needed it, and nobody else in that building had that information. That's the thing about survived pain. It's specific knowledge. Nobody who hasn't been through it has it, and no amount of good intentions can substitute for it. Most people fail here because they think they have to be fully healed to help anyone, so they wait, and they wait for a completeness that never quite arrives, and the help they could have given goes ungiven. But you don't need to be finished. You only need to be one step further down the road than the person behind you. So do this. Name what you needed and didn't get. Then find one person who's currently where you were, and give them exactly that. Not advice, that thing. If you needed someone to check in every week, check in every week. If you needed someone to say this isn't your fault, go say it. Be precise. Give the specific medicine you were denied. Your wound is your credential. Your absence becomes someone else's presence. That's how the fire stops destroying and starts forging. And that leads to the last one, the one that makes all of this permanent. 9. Decide what this will have meant. Here's the truth I've saved for the end. Pain doesn't come with a meaning attached. It comes blank, and whoever assigns the meaning owns the outcome. You've watched this. 2 people go through nearly identical losses. 10 years later, one is bitter, closed, smaller than they were. The other is deeper, warmer, more useful than they'd ever been. The event didn't decide that. Time didn't decide it. Somewhere along the way, each of them made a decision about what the thing was going to mean, and then spent a decade proving themselves right. I've heard this described by someone who was imprisoned wrongly for over a decade. He was asked how he wasn't destroyed by it, and he said something that reorganizes how you think about all of this. He said he decided early on that the years would either be stolen from him or invested by him, and that either way they were being spent. So he read, he studied law, he taught other men to read, and when he finally walked out, he said he wasn't leaving with nothing, he was leaving with a decade of work. The injustice was identical either way. The yield was entirely his choice. That's the decision in front of you, and it's not a feeling, it's a verdict you hand down. Most people never make it consciously, so it gets made for them by default, by mood, by the story they happen to tell themselves at the lowest moment, by what the people around them expected. Drift always chooses bitterness, because bitterness requires no effort. Meaning has to be built on purpose. So make the verdict today. Say it plainly, out loud if you can. This will have made me underscore. Not this happened for a reason. You don't need the universe to have planned it. It probably didn't, but you can still determine what it produces. Then write the 3 things you'll do this year that prove it. Not feel, do, because a meaning without evidence dissolves the first hard week. Time turns some people bitter and others deep. It isn't the time, it's the verdict. Music, and here's what all of it comes down to. You have been waiting for the pain to end so your life can start, but the pain was never the interruption, it was the material. Everything you've been trying to get past is the same substance you're supposed to be building with, and every year you spend waiting for it to be over is a year of raw material you throw away. The fire never asked what it would become. That was never the fire's decision, it was always the container's. So, stop asking why, ask what it revealed. Give the grief a window instead of a lifetime. Turn the story into a skill. Put down the identity of the wounded. Aim the anger at something worth preventing. Stop waiting for a witness who isn't coming. Take one small action inside the hour. Become the person you needed, and hand down the verdict about what all of it will have meant. Here's your one thing. Before this day ends, take the smallest action from point 7, the walk, the email, the call, and do it. Not tomorrow, today. Because the container is not built by understanding. It's built by one act of conversion, repeated until it's who you are. Nobody is coming to take the pain away, but nobody can stop you from using it either. Your future isn't waiting somewhere ahead of you, intact, hoping you arrive. It's being made right now, out of exactly what you're carrying. And what you're carrying is heavier than most people's, which means, if you learn to work it, what you build will be stronger than most people's too. The fire is already burning. Build the container.